Jake Bennett stared at his phone, his thumb hovering over the bright red upload button. In the frozen frame of the video thumbnail, his tear-streaked face told a story he never thought he'd share. 3 million views later, his honest answer to what started as a teasing question had changed not just his life, but thousands of others. If you're feeling alone in your struggles as a parent, this story might be exactly what you need today. Are you good in bed? The question hung in the air like cigarette smoke, accompanied by Michael's signature smirk. The other guys at the table erupted in laughter, beer sloshing over the rims of their glasses. Jake Bennett forced a smile, though the question stung more than his friends realized. At 34, he was the only single dad in their group, the only one who hadn't had a date in over 2 years. Better than you, I'm sure, he replied with practiced ease, deflecting as he always did when conversations turned to his non-existent love life. The Friday night ritual at O'Malley's pub continued around him. 6 friends who'd known each other since college, now navigating their mid-30s with varying degrees of success. Marriage, careers, homes, all the checkboxes of adulthood mostly ticked off. Except for Jake. His life had veered dramatically off course when Sophie was born 6 years ago, and then shattered completely when Melissa walked out on them both just after Sophie's 4th birthday. Seriously though, Michael persisted, lowering his voice and leaning across the table. You haven't dated anyone since Melissa left. That's a long dry spell, man. Jake took a long pull from his beer. When exactly am I supposed to date, Mike? Between work, Sophie's school, her activities, managing the house alone. Excuses, Michael cut in, though his tone had softened. Sophie stays with your parents every other weekend. You could put yourself out there if you wanted to. Jake felt a flash of anger. Not at Michael, his friend meant well, but at how simple others thought his situation was. They didn't understand what it was like to be the entire world to a little girl who'd already had one parent abandon her. Maybe I'm just not interested right now, Jake said, signaling to the waitress for another round. Or maybe you're scared, Michael said, suddenly serious. Look, Jake, it's been 2 years. Melissa was wrong for leaving, but you can't put your whole life on hold because of it. The other guys had fallen silent, the conversation having crossed from playful ribbing to something more genuine. Jake felt exposed, like a nerve ending suddenly opened to the air. I'm not putting my life on hold, Jake said. My life is Sophie now. Michael sighed. That's not a life, Jake. That's a responsibility. Something inside Jake snapped. 2 years of bottled frustration, exhaustion, and loneliness suddenly demanded release. You want to know if I'm good in bed, he said, his voice low but intense. Here's the truth. Most nights, I'm incredible. A world-class performer. Because my 6-year-old daughter has nightmares about her mother leaving again, and the only way she'll sleep is if I lie there beside her, telling stories and stroking her hair until she feels safe enough to close her eyes. The table had gone completely silent. Some nights, I lie there for hours, cramped in a twin bed with unicorn sheets, listening to make sure her breathing is steady before I dare try to slip back to my own room. And even then, half the time she wakes up and calls for me, panic in her voice, and we start the whole process again. Jake realized his hands were trembling. He clasped them together to still them. So yeah, Mike, I'm fucking fantastic in bed, just not in the way you meant. And no, I'm not ready to put myself out there when I can barely keep myself together for the one person who needs me most. The silence that followed felt eternal. Jake's heart pounded in his ears as he realized how much he'd revealed, how much he'd kept buried even from his closest friends. Finally, Michael reached across the table and gripped Jake's shoulder. I had no idea it was that rough, man. I'm sorry. Jake nodded, suddenly embarrassed by his outburst. It's fine. It's complicated. Why haven't you said anything before? Asked Eric, their normally quiet friend who'd been married the longest. Jake shrugged. What's there to say? Everyone's busy with their own lives. Besides, single dads are supposed to be stoic, right? Handle everything without complaining? That's bullshit, Michael said firmly. We're your friends. We're supposed to help each other. How? Jake asked, genuinely curious. You going to take turns sleeping in Sophie's room? Maybe we can, Eric said thoughtfully. Not literally, but, my kids love Sophie. What if we arranged more playdates? Give you some actual time to yourself? The conversation shifted, suddenly transformed from teasing to problem solving. For the first time in years, Jake felt something loosen in his chest, a knot of tension he'd been carrying so long he'd forgotten it was there. The video wasn't Jake's idea. It was Michael's, 2 months after that night at O'Malley's. People need to hear this stuff, Michael insisted over lunch. Do you have any idea how many single parents are out there feeling exactly like you did? Thinking they're the only ones struggling? I'm not going to put my personal life on display, Jake protested. Not your whole life. Just your perspective. That answer you gave about being good in bed, it was powerful, Jake. It flipped the whole concept on its head. Jake hesitated. Sophie would see it eventually. And she'd see her dad being honest about how much he loves her. How is that bad? Jake didn't have an answer for that. 3 days later, he found himself sitting in front of Michael's camera setup. Just a simple chair against a plain wall in Michael's home office. Just talk, Michael said from behind the camera. Pretend you're telling me the story again. Jake took a deep breath and began speaking. He talked about becoming a single dad, about the crushing loneliness, about the night at O'Malley's when his friends had finally seen behind the mask he'd been wearing. And yes, he retold the good in bed story, his voice cracking when he described those nights holding his daughter until she felt safe enough to sleep. I thought being a good father meant never showing weakness, he said toward the end. Never admitting how hard it was. But the moment I finally broke down and told my friends the truth was the moment things actually started to get better. He wiped away a tear, unashamed. If you're a single parent watching this, please don't make my mistake. Ask for help. Let people in. You're not supposed to do this alone. When it was over, Jake felt drained but oddly peaceful. That was therapeutic, he admitted. Michael nodded, reviewing the footage. This is special, Jake. This is going to help people. Jake shrugged, unconvinced. If you say so. But if it gets fewer than 100 views, you're buying me dinner. 1 week later, Jake's phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. The video, posted on Michael's modest YouTube channel, had been shared by a popular parenting blog. Then another. Then a celebrity single parent had shared it on Instagram. Suddenly, the single dad's answer was everywhere. Comments poured in from parents, single and otherwise, thanking Jake for his honesty, for making them feel less alone, for giving voice to feelings they'd been afraid to express. I showed this to my ex-husband, one comment read. It's the first time he's ever acknowledged how hard I've been working as a single mom. Thank you for changing his perspective. Another wrote, I'm a single dad to 3 kids and thought I was failing because I can't do it all like the perfect parents on social media. Your video made me cry in a good way. The most meaningful messages came from other parents of children with anxiety and abandonment issues. Your daughter is so lucky, one mother wrote. My son has similar fears, and knowing there are other parents out there prioritizing their children's emotional needs means everything. Michael's prediction had been right. The video wasn't just viewed, it resonated. It sparked conversations about parenting, about vulnerability, about what real strength looks like. 6 months later, Jake sat in a different chair, this time across from Sophie's therapist, Dr. Hansen. The small woman with salt and pepper hair smiled warmly at him. Sophie's making remarkable progress, she said. The nightmares are down to once a week or less, and she's showing much more confidence at school. Jake nodded. The Playdate network has been a game changer. She's spending more time with other kids, making real connections. And you? Dr. Hansen asked, her keen eyes studying him. How are you doing, Jake? The question still caught him off guard sometimes, people actually asking how he was, expecting a real answer. Better, he said honestly. I'm sleeping more. My friends have been amazing, and the support group that formed after the video, it's been incredible to connect with other parents facing similar challenges. And I understand you've been seeing someone? Jake felt himself blush slightly. Yes. Sarah. She's a pediatric nurse. We met at one of the parenting workshops I started attending. Is it serious? Dr. Hansen asked with a smile. It's thoughtful, Jake replied. We're both putting our kids first, taking things slowly. But it's nice to have someone who understands the complexities. Sophie mentioned her, Dr. Hansen said. She seems quite fond of Sarah. Jake couldn't help but smile. They bonded over a shared love of terrible jokes and ice cream. Sarah has a 10-year-old son, Tyler. The kids get along great. That's wonderful, Jake. So much has changed since you first came to see me. Jake nodded, remembering the desperate, exhausted man who'd finally sought professional help after that night at O'Malley's. I still have moments when it feels overwhelming. But I'm not trying to carry it all alone anymore. The one-year anniversary of The Single Dad's Answer found Jake sitting at his kitchen table, surrounded by his closest friends and their families. Sophie raced around the backyard with the other children, her laughter floating through the open windows. Michael raised his glass. To 3 million views and counting. Everyone clinked glasses. And to Jake, Eric added. For having the courage to be honest. Jake felt a flush of embarrassment but nodded in acknowledgement. To all of you, for being there when I finally asked for help. Sarah squeezed his hand under the table. At 41, she carried her own history of struggles and triumphs as a single parent. Her quiet strength had been a revelation to Jake, someone who understood his priorities because she shared them. Later, as the party wound down, Jake found himself alone with Michael in the kitchen. I never properly thanked you, Jake said, loading dishes into the dishwasher. For what? Michael asked, wrapping leftover cake. For pushing me. That night at O'Malley's, and then with the video. You saw something I couldn't. Michael shrugged. I just asked an obnoxious question and got a life-changing answer. Jake laughed. Well, your obnoxiousness changed my life for the better, so thanks for that. Michael smiled, then grew serious. You know what the best part of all this is? It's not the video or the followers or any of that. It's seeing you happy again. Seeing Sophie happy. Jake nodded, glancing out the window where Sophie was showing Tyler how to use the new swing set. She hasn't had a nightmare in over a month. And you're dating a smart, gorgeous nurse who thinks your dad jokes are actually funny, which is clearly a sign of poor judgment on her part. Jake chuckled. I'm a lucky man. No, Michael said firmly. This isn't luck. This is what happens when you let people help you carry the load. That night, after everyone had gone home, Jake tucked Sophie into bed. Did you have fun today, sweetheart? He asked, smoothing her wild blonde curls away from her face. She nodded, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. It was the best day. Tyler says his mom really likes you. Jake smiled. I really like her too. Daddy? Sophie's voice took on that serious tone that meant she was thinking deeply about something. Yes? Remember when I used to be scared to go to sleep? Jake's heart constricted. I do. I'm not scared anymore. She looked up at him with those clear blue eyes, Melissa's eyes. Because even if I have a bad dream, I know you'll be here when I wake up. Jake swallowed the lump in his throat. Always, Sophie. I promise. And now we have more people too, she continued, her child's wisdom striking him to the core. Sarah and Tyler and all our friends. It's like a bigger family. That's exactly what it is, Jake agreed, kissing her forehead. A chosen family. Sophie smiled, already drifting toward sleep. I'm glad you told people you needed help, Daddy. Jake sat beside her bed, watching her eyelids grow heavy. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. As Sophie's breathing deepened into sleep, Jake slipped quietly from her room, no longer needing to stay until she was completely asleep, a small victory they both celebrated. In the living room, he picked up his phone and saw a text from Sarah, Tyler's finally asleep. Thanks for a wonderful day. You and Sophie mean the world to us. Red heart. Jake smiled, typing back, the feeling is mutual. Lunch tomorrow? He set down the phone and glanced at the framed screenshot on his wall, the moment from the video that had gone viral, his tear-streaked face and vulnerable smile capturing exactly what it meant to be both broken and healing. The caption beneath it was simple, words borrowed from one of the thousands of comments the video had received. True strength isn't carrying the weight alone, it's having the courage to let others help you carry it. If you found meaning in Jake's story today, please hit the like button and subscribe to see more content that celebrates real parenting moments. Share this video with someone who might be struggling alone. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can offer each other is the simple reminder that we're not the only ones finding our way through the hard parts of life.